And Shasky, I know it's been hard for you to move on from what happened on Sunday. When we're going to watch Sunday Night Football, Niners and Broncos, I think they still call it Invesco Field, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, boy.
Mile High.
Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the starting quarterback for the 49ers in 2022.
The scene of the Booger McFarland crime?
Yeah.
He just doesn't see the field.
Yeah. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be starting at quarterback.
That's insider preseason talk.
Have you been able to wrap your arms around that Jimmy Garoppolo is now starting?
It felt like deja vu in the stadium. I was just sitting there in a malaise like, I can't believe he's out there. Because here's the thing, and this is where...
Do you understand where I was coming from in Chicago, where I was like, every dead ball, I'm looking to see where number 10 was?
Of course. Here's the thing. Like, the backdrop of this conversation that we're going to have right now, Bonte, is Super Bowl. Like, should we recalibrate how good this team can be? Because Mark Willard came in and said, I think they're the favorite in the West, and which is a fair point, and I'm hearing a lot of people say that, and that's why they were so skeptical, worried, anxiety-filled over Trey Lance. Like, this is a win-now roster. So let's put that to the side for right now. When Jimmy went back out there, all I kept thinking about was, damn, I watched this guy on a side field throwing to a bunch of guys in T-shirts that look like you and me, okay, not players. He didn't get a playbook. You could tell me, yeah, Joe, they're running the same offense. You know, okay, fine. I'll listen to that.
Yeah.
I'm not dismissing that. But there's a synergy here. Like, you got to get some reps out there. And then when he comes back to the team after being on a hiatus, essentially thrown on a small, tiny little JV field off to the side, he gets thrown in, and he's basically the scout team quarterback because you don't get opportunities running with the twos. You're going up against the number one defense. I looked at what he did in the game. I was like, you know what? He looked pretty damn good considering all those variables I just laid out. He had shoulder surgery. Like, I was legitimately concerned if the shoulder would even hold up.
What I won't do, though, this guy's been in the system since 2017. I'm not going, well, he didn't have a playbook all training camp. Jimmy Garoppolo knows a playbook, right? Good. Baldy broke it down to us a couple weeks ago. The playbook, we all know the playbook. He can get the playbook, he'll have it down in 24 hours. He's been in the league for 8 years.
I hear you, but I'm not saying that I'm not here saying like he pulled a Steph Curry in game 4. Right. I'm not here to say that. Right. What I'm saying is that given all those circumstances, I thought it was a pretty good Jimmy G performance.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad.
You know, I thought he got the ball out timely. It felt like they were in a little rhythm. He felt rhythmic. I didn't know what to expect, B. I legitimately didn't.
Wasn't bad, and they get the win. Their first of the 2022 season.
Am I
overrating
it?
27-7. I'm not going to rate it too much because I think they were going to beat the Seahawks' ass on Sunday.
Probably.
They opened that game up, gashing them. The Seahawks were not ready to play. They were not ready to play. I'm not taking anything away from Jimmy. He did what he had to do. You get a touchdown, boom. You get another touchdown, boom. He made the right reads. It wasn't a bad game for Jimmy Garoppolo. Now he's a starter. I just can't believe he's a starting quarterback.
I can't either. And so let's get back into the Super Bowl conversation.
Let's get Chambry real quick in Arizona, and we'll get back into the Super Bowl conversation because I think the expectations from what everybody said in training camp. Everybody said in training camp, man, if you have Jimmy, you got a Super Bowl quarterback on the roster. It's now starting.
But didn't I push back on that at every turn? Like, we throw this word Super Bowl roster around.
But you know what?
And I just think it's it's unfair to everybody
Is this team not in win-now mode, though? Wasn't that the biggest beef with Trey Lance? This team is in win-now mode.
I hear you, but outside of like 4 teams in the league, isn't everyone in win-now mode every year? Isn't that how the NFL is kind of like wired?
No, but this team is different. You know that. This team is different. They've tasted it. They've been teased with the Super Bowl. They've made the NFC Championship game. And now you got Trent Williams, who's 34 now. We don't know how long George Kittle's going to be a 49er with the way he gets banged up. Deebo Samuel, we all agree he has a lot of wear and tear. Jimmy Ward's in his 30s now, all right? Nick Bosa is in his prime. Jimmy's now playing quarterback again. You got your veteran back. Why can't we recalibrate and say, you know what? If they're not in the NFC, at least in the NFC divisional round, it's a disappointment.
Well, okay.
It was going to be a disappointment.
Making the playoffs and winning a game, I agree with that.
It was going to be a disappointment for Trey Lance to not make the playoffs.
Exactly. That's all my point.
But you have Jimmy now. And a lot of people believe Jimmy's the better quarterback.
I don't think that the Niners can jump the Rams right now, for me. And if others feel different, it's totally fair. That's the Super Bowl champs. They've got stars. They've got a veteran quarterback who outplayed our guy in the handful of moments in that fourth quarter in the NFC Championship game, and I want to give them their due respect. And I do believe that the 49ers, though they've upgraded in certain areas, at the offensive line, I think it's a massive question mark still. Whether it was Trey or Jimmy Garoppolo, not having Jimmy Ward is going to present itself at some point.
Well, he's back in 2 games.
He
may be back.
I hope.
He may be back. You're now 2 games away from having Jimmy Ward back.
Is depreciated now that you don't have Elijah Mitchell.
But he'll be back at some point, right?
I hope.
Let's get to Chambry in Arizona. He's watching us via the website. Website, huh? Listening via the website, 957thegame.com. That's a first. What's up, Chambry? What's happening?
Hey, what's up, fellas? Appreciate you taking the call. Yeah, I'm a little old school, man, so I'm not an app dude, so just pop in the website here, play.
There you go. I like it.
Anyways, just thinking about it over a day, having revisionist history, looking back at, when we got, coach and just everything that's been through from the draft, from him being sold all in on Kirk Cousins, then pivoting to Jimmy. There's a saying that if you want to see the true character of a man, give him power. And I think he's shown us everything we need to know. I mean, personally, I just can't trust them with the development of quarterbacks, with selecting the players that we select. I mean, we've changed multiple training staffs, and yet we got all these guys that are injured, whether we're drafting them because they have an ACL history, or like Shasky said, we got essentially a right tackle playing tight end because you burn him down blocking so damn much, but then when you need him vitally in the passing game, he ain't never healthy. And there's 2 glaring needs that Shanahan has for me, and that's obviously short down and distance situation.
You're right, Chambry. You're right. Good call there. Good call. A lot of people have lost trust with Kyle Shanahan. A lot of people. And to his point about developing quarterbacks or drafting quarterbacks or helping these quarterbacks out, a lot of people believe, including myself, that Jimmy Garoppolo regressed under Kyle Shanahan. Now, is that on Jimmy or is that on Kyle?
I would argue that it's there's a duality to that statement. Both can be true. I think
can be true.
I think that both of them share culpability.
Right. They. So, with that said, and by the way, not to get derailed, but people, this is what I see all the time. 650 Comcast Business Text Line. This is just comedy. Bonte wants Jimmy Garoppolo to fail so bad. Why would I want the 49ers to fail? Number one, it's not good for business. All right? Number one, when they went 4-12 in 2018, we couldn't talk football after October 1st in this market.
Our favorite thing to talk about.
We couldn't talk football, all right? Number one,
and then you almost strangled me over Jimmy G. How many times in a row?
Because I thought Jimmy didn't get his due.
Yeah.
I didn't think so. This whole thing that you're hearing all this stuff, you guys want Shanahan fired, you want Jimmy. Nobody wants the 49ers to fail. We believe they could be a Super Bowl team. But, man, some of the things we see, the offensive line play, the running backs going down, some of the play calling, the quarterback powers, where people are now charting every team in the league to see how many quarterback powers or RPOs they're running because of what happened to Trey Lance.
It's now jumped the shark.
It has jumped the shark.
In 24 hours.
Oh, Lamar Jackson doesn't. Lamar Jackson's a different player. Baltimore built their team around him.
He's a unicorn. I don't want to do the comparative shopping.
I don't want to do that at all. But Jalen Hurts did look good running outside the numbers.
He looked really good.
Where are the 49ers at now? Jimmy Garoppolo starting at quarterback, Shasky. That's where we're at as we move forward to Sunday Night Football. Chris Collinsworth, Mike Tirico, NBC, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to line up under center as your starting quarterback of the 49ers. That's just wild to me.
So we've obviously been breaking down the Shanahan portion, the play calling, the players, like how they're feeling and what Vegas is doing. Everybody feels that they're in a better position to win a Super Bowl. All that being true, is his shoulder going to hold up?
We'll see. He had the surgery.
I feel like we do all of this stuff when we talk about healing, and all we worried about was him being healthy enough to move off of.
Right.
Is he healthy enough to make it through the season? I'm asking out loud. I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know either. We're going to find out. We're going to find out. Did you see anything on Sunday where Jimmy Garoppolo threw the ball where you thought, oh, boy, his shoulder's not right?
Well, he threw – look, at least he ripped a couple deep. I'll give him that. One of them was on 4th down. I think it was basically like a punt. It should have been the interception.
Yeah. Yep.
But it was like a punt. And I'm okay. I think was that 4th and 8? Was that the one where they ended up going for it?
4th and 8. Down the field of Brandon Ayuk.
It's just seeing him rip the ball down the field, like that's all we've ever wanted. Just throw a couple deep. A couple, just to stretch the defense a little. So if his arm's feeling better to where he can do that, great. Rhythmic, I thought he was, very rhythmic early on. It got a little stale in the middle, but isn't that kind of always the case with the Shanahan offense?
No doubt, it is.
It's like hit and miss.
It is. Let's get to Matt
Got
Napa.
Baldy in 2 minutes.
Yeah, Baldy in 2 minutes. Matt Napa listening via the Odyssey app. What's up, Matt? What's happening? You're on the roast.
Hey, good morning, guys. I just really quick, I heard an interview with Joe Staley the other day, and he was talking about, with regards to injuries, how nowadays he doesn't really agree with how they practice and prepare for the season. And even though he didn't really see eye to eye and didn't really care for Jim Harbaugh, what he did agree with is how they, quote unquote, built up their calluses before the season to prepare for the season and prevent injuries. And nowadays, teams across the NFL don't even do that. They prevent their players from playing, and just the way things are nowadays.
It's interesting that you bring this up. No, it's a really interesting point. Part of the CBA negotiations that took place a couple years ago, what was lost in it was the players didn't want to practice as much.
Yep.
They wanted less padded practices. They wanted less time at the facility, and they wanted to be compensated more for the games that they were actually playing. A byproduct of that is that you don't get to hit a lot in practice, right? And
that's why it affects the tackling, especially early in the season. You see a lot of missed tackles in the pros, especially in the month of September. And now with the lack of preseason reps, tackling's been piss poor to start the season. Now, there's some guys out there hitting, but a lot of teams don't practice it. Let's get to Supervillain real quick before we get to Baldy. Supervillain in San Francisco. Got about 30 seconds before we get to Brian Baldinger here on the Morning Roast. What's up, Supervillain?
Thanks for having me, guys. Just real quick, every coach running their quarterback in between the tackles needs to be fired in the NFL. I used to watch John Elway do quarterback draws where there was lots of space, but running him into the line like a running back is ridiculous, number one. And then also, I think Trey Lance is now looking at Shanahan with the side eye for the rest of his career. He'll never trust him again. And you know what? Their relationship is over. He's got to get out of San Francisco if he wants a career.
Wow.
I'm not going to go anywhere close to as far as that. I think that's completely
I'm not
speculative and unfair. Who knows? Who knows how he's feeling? Apparently he said that as he was lying there, he said, "Hey, did I make the right read?" And I'm not going to go inside someone's head. I think that's nonsense to even begin. And I'm not ripping the caller. I'm just saying it's unfair and nonsense for me to try to get inside any of their heads. We just
don't know where their relationship is. But quarterback powers. I mean, it's fascinating, man. Like, the conversation that Willard was having, and he brought it up in the change hour. I thought about it a lot.
What part of it?
Just because it's not just Willard saying it. It's a lot of people saying this. Is that Shanahan told us that Trey Lance wasn't ready due to his play calling. Shanahan wasn't ready, or Trey Lance wasn't ready due to Kyle Shanahan's play calling. His play calling proved that Trey Lance wasn't ready. Now, we look at Chicago, and a lot of experts say you got to throw that tape out the window. Those conditions, the rain, the turf, you got to throw it out the window. Then we see the first two drives against Seattle. They get down to the red zone. They had to settle for 3. And, of course, Trey gets hurt. Jimmy comes in on third down. They settle for another field goal. How do we know that the coaching staff didn't trust Trey to rip it? Because, man, 3rd and 7 to Juwan Jennings in the first game of the season in Chicago, boy, it looked like they trusted him then. The throw to Ray McLeod looked like they trusted him then. I don't know how we can judge that the coaching staff for Shanahan didn't trust Trey.
This is the biggest gut punch of it all, is the unknown. The unknown of who he is, the unknown of what would have developed 2 weeks from now, 6 weeks from now, 10 weeks from now. What does it evolve into? Mm-hmm. What does it devolve into? Like, we don't even know. We have no idea. We've been yanked. Like, I have a million questions and I don't have answers. And that is the part that stinks more than anything.
Yeah.
Is that you don't really feel like you know anything.
Yeah, but there's a lot of callers, like that last caller, Super Villain. Do you understand where the callers are coming from? A lot of fans have lost trust in Kyle Shanahan. They lost trust in Shanahan developing quarterbacks. They lost trust in Shanahan picking quarterbacks.
Wouldn't you say that there, especially in a sport like football, there are always going to be a segment of the fans when you make certain decisions at quarterback, when injuries present themselves, that are going to be out on anyone at any given time. I'm not trying to defend Shanahan. I'm throwing that out there as a whole. Like Doug Peterson wins a Super Bowl in Philadelphia. And I don't know if it was his decision fully or if it was the GM's decision.
Well, Carson Wentz, they went back to Carson Wentz. But the reason why they went back to Carson Wentz.
He was playing at an MVP level.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
do you get where I'm going with this?
I do.
So, you're going to alienate, and I go back to Harbaugh and the Alex and Kaepernick conversation. They ended up going to the Super Bowl, but it did feel like that whole entire decision festered for 2 years in that locker room, and it did feel like it divided everyone.
I heard Dante Whitner recently. He was basically saying, we knew Kaepernick was the guy. When they went to Kaepernick, it was no problem.